Ever read a line of poetry and felt it in your chest? Like it wasn't just words, but a whisper from someone who gets you. That's not an accident. That's language, operating at its highest level. And today, we're cracking open why poetry works, and why your soul craves it. Stick around. This might change how you see every word you read or write. Poetry stands as one of the highest expressions of the aesthetic function of language, an art form that elevates communication beyond its merely practical and informational purpose. Unlike prose, which tends to explain and describe with a continuous flow of words, a poetic text is distinguished by a creative intentionality that acts on form, rhythm, and the use of language to evoke emotions, stimulate the imagination, and open up to multiple interpretations. Its foundational principle is not primarily the content, which can be any subject, but the form, understood as the style that shapes and determines its artistic essence. Poetry isn't just pretty words, it's language turned into art. While prose explains, poetry evokes. It doesn't just tell you, it makes you feel. And here's the secret. It's not about what it says, it's about how it says it. The poetic act is a dialogue between signifier and signified, between sound and idea, which makes every word a potential crossroads of literal denotations and deep symbolic connotations. This explored relationship between author and reader, between text and interpretation, will be the common thread of an analysis that, starting from the technical foundations, will outline the changing role of poetry and the poet in society, from ancient Greece to the digital age. So stay tuned to get the whole story. Ever wonder why poems look different? Those line breaks, that white space, it's not design fluff. It's psychological engineering. Prose fills the page, poetry breathes on it, that blank space, it's an invitation. A pause, a moment for you to sink in, to feel, to remember, to connect. Prose tells you what happened. Poetry asks you, how did it feel? The most immediate distinction between a poetic text and a text in prose is seen at a graphical and structural level. Poetry is characterized by the scansion into verses, which are single lines of text that break before the end of the available space, leaving ample white space. These verses are often grouped into stanzas, which mark pauses and thematic divisions. Prose, on the other hand, presents itself as a continuous flow of words that fills the entire line, with no graphical interruptions signaling its end before the space is exhausted. This formal difference is not purely aesthetic, but has a profound function that conditions the reader's experience. The white space and the line break, which visually suggest a pause, impose a different reading pace from the linear and uninterrupted one of prose. This pause is not only physiological, but acts on a psychological and interpretive level. It offers the reader the necessary time to welcome and internalize the images and sensations evoked, inviting them to enrich and integrate the meaning of the verses with something that belongs deeply to them. Think of it like this. Prose is fast food, gets the job done. Poetry? That's slow food for your soul. Every pause, every line break, every syllable, placed with purpose. And you, yes, you watching right now, you're not just a reader, you're a co-creator. The poem isn't finished until you bring your own story to it. Although prose can convey poetic content, its denotative and descriptive aspect makes it more suitable for a direct and literal understanding, while poetry, with its system of pauses and rhythms, directs the interpretive act toward a deeper and more reflective reading. If you're loving this deep dive, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. We drop videos every week that'll make you fall in love with language all over again. Okay, let's get nerdy for a sec. Don't worry, it's the good kind of nerdy. Poetry runs on invisible architecture, meter, rhythm, rhyme. The fundamental unit of poetry is the verse, which is not simply a line of text, but an artificial communicative unit with its own measure and rhythm. The system of rules that governs this measure is meter. To calculate the number of syllables in a verse, one cannot always rely on grammatical division. It is necessary to consider metrical figures. Among these, the most common are the fusion figures, synalepa and syneresis. The former joins the last vowel of one word with the first vowel of the following word, as if they belong to a single syllable. The latter, syneresis, joins two vowels within the same word that would normally be pronounced separately. There are also scission figures, which operate in the reverse direction. In this area, we have diaeresis, also known as hiatus, and dialepa. Diaeresis separates a diphthong, that would normally be pronounced in a single breath, into two syllables, as in the word naive. It's often used to stretch a verse that is too short, as in the line, "She dreams of skies so poem-like and deep." Dilepha, on the other hand, prevents the vocalic fusion between the end of one word and the beginning of the next, as in the imaginary line, "I saw the sea instead." The rhythm of the verse is also marked by the tonic accent, which is the syllable on which the voice rests with greater intensity. The set of these accents, called ictus, creates a sound architecture that makes the text more memorable and musical, detaching it from the natural rhythm of common speech. Ever heard, "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day"? That's iambic pentameter, the heartbeat of English poetry. And rhyme, it's not just for Dr. Seuss, it's brain glue. It makes lines stick, makes them sing. Rhyme is defined as the identity of sound that occurs after the tonic accent between two words, usually placed at the end of different verses. There are numerous rhyme schemes that structure stanzas. The most common are couplet rhyme, alternating rhyme, enclosed or crossed rhyme, and chained rhyme. In couplet rhyme, the scheme is A-A-B-B. In alternating rhyme, we have even and odd verses that rhyme with each other, A-B-A-B. In enclosed rhyme, the first verse rhymes with the fourth and the second with the third A-B-B-A. The chained rhyme is typical of Dante's tercets. The scheme is A-B-A-B-C-B-C-D-C, from couplets to tercets. Every rhyme scheme is a secret code. And once you crack it, you'll never read poetry the same way again. Rhyme, more than accent, contributes to giving a verse prominence. The presence of these metric and rhyme schemes is not a mere stylistic ornament, but a system that re-engineers language for artistic purposes. While the rhythm of a spontaneous statement serves to convey information, the complex sound architecture of the poetic verse elevates the word from a functional tool to an autonomous work of art, where sound, structure, and meaning merge into a single sensory and emotional experience. If you're learning something new, do me a solid, smash that like button. It tells YouTube this stuff matters and helps us keep making it. Here's where poetry becomes magic. Beyond its formal structure, poetic language is distinguished by a peculiar use of words that goes beyond their literal meaning. Each word is a symbol composed of a signifier and a signified. While the signifier is the physical substance, that is, the sounds or letters, the signified is the concept the words and sounds evoke. Poetry exploits the interaction between these two aspects to enrich the text and stimulate emotional reflection. Crucial in this process is the distinction between denotation and connotation. Denotation is the literal, objective, and basic meaning of a word, the one you can find in the dictionary. Connotation, on the other hand, adds emotional, symbolic, and interpretive nuances that go beyond the primary sense. In poetry, the use of connotation is particularly important, as it allows words to evoke images and concepts that give the text an interpretive density and an openness to multiple readings. And rhetorical figures? Metaphor, simile, hyperbole, personification. These aren't fancy tricks, they're emotional weapons. These are transfers or tropes. In other words, they are procedures that transfer an expression from its proper meaning to a figurative one. This figurative language makes complex and abstract concepts visceral and tangible. Although they are also present in other contexts, such as advertising, songs, and social media, tropes are the unequivocal signature of a uniquely human expression. Among the most important figures are metaphor, simile, hyperbole, and personification. The metaphor compares two things without the use of conjunctions like or as. It creates images of strong emotional impact. Hope is the thing with feathers. Emily Dickinson didn't describe hope. She gave it wings. All the world's a stage. Shakespeare didn't explain life. He turned it into a performance. The simile compares two things explicitly using like or as. A literary example is in Robert Burns's A Red, Red Rose. My love is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. My love is like the melody that's sweetly played in tune. Then we have hyperbole, an exaggeration for expressive purposes, as in the expression, "You killed me today." Personification, on the other hand, gives human traits and characteristics to inanimate objects or abstract concepts. The value of these figures is not only stylistic but ontological. They represent the irreducible creative nature of the human being. Their function is to establish an empathetic connection with the reader, based on an interpretation that is not literal but intuitive and shared. Rhetorical figures are the very essence of poiesis, the creation of meaning that goes beyond the simple transmission of information. making poetry a vehicle of meaning that resonates deeply with the human experience. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this. Seriously, tag them, send it. Poetry is too powerful to keep to yourself. So, next time you read a poem, don't just read it. Feel it. Let the white space breathe. Let the rhythm move you. Let the metaphor crack your heart open. Because poetry, it's not a relic, it's a revolution. Happening one line at a time. Bonus. Drop a thumbs up in the comments if you want me to break down your favorite poem next week. I'll pick one and do a full deep dive analysis. And if you haven't yet, subscribe, hit the bell, like this video. Comment your favorite line. Because language, it's alive. And you're part of the story. See you in the next one.